It's scary, 16 years old, knowing that a few decisions could easily change the rest of my life. Seems like yesterday I was just starting high school, and now all of a sudden I'm a junior, and graduation is just around the corner. Everywhere I go, people are asking me what I'm going to do. Well, I guess people have always asked that question. What do you want to be when you grow up? But now it's different. Now it's for real. Everyone has to decide at some point, not only if they're going to go to college, but where and what they want to study. None of those questions are that easy. For me, I think I'm sure the first one. I want to go to college. But even that idea is a little stressful when I don't really know what college is like.
College is a great time. You have so much more freedom than you've ever had before in your life. There's always, that kind of feeling we're all in college, we're all going through the same thing together, so.
It's been really fun just to be around this many people that are in the same place in life as you. I was just always had a very structured life that my mother gave me, and I was pretty ready to kind of branch out and try having my own responsibilities and taking care of myself. I kind of had decided earlier on that I maybe wanted to be a doctor, and I wasn't really sure. It was just sort of a start. I couldn't ever decide what I wanted to major in. I knew that I really liked sciences because that had always been a huge part of my life, just going out to Yellowstone. We'd be walking around on one of the geyser basins, and there would be like this team there, and someone would have like a temperature probe, and they'd be reaching down into the hot spring and taking temperatures and measuring it, and I was like, I want to be that person. When I went to chemical engineering, one of the professors there just happened to be looking for someone to work in his lab, and I knew that he did some bioenvironmental work, especially down in the park, and so I got to get that position, and I finally get to be that person.
When I was younger, I had always planned on being a doctor. But by the end of my sophomore year, my views had changed, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. My problem is, I have interests in so many different things. I don't know how to choose which of those interests to base a career on.
The last few years, there's been this huge fossil fuel crisis.
Fossil fuels are running out. It's not a renewable resource.
Petroleum is getting harder and harder to get to.
Is oil going to get so expensive that it's just, not efficient to use anymore? So the first thing I do is make a bunch of protein. After that, I disassemble the protein, I break it apart into little pieces, take out the metal that's there, put in the metal that I want, and reassemble the protein, put it back together, and then do hydrogen experiments with it. The goal of what I'm doing is to put this protein back together in a way that I can, on its own, produce hydrogen when light is shown on it. So you shine light on this protein, we make hydrogen. Okay, what does that hydrogen do? Powers hydrogen fuel cells, and then hydrogen fuel cells power lights, cars. I mean, basically we have this protein that we've blown apart, it's in pieces, and it's slowly coming back together. And my job that excites me every day is to make sure, am I putting it back together right? Can I put it together different ways? Can I take two different proteins and put them together? And it's those little discoveries that you make every day that definitely keeps you coming back.
I can be almost anything I want to be, which is a great feeling, but it also makes my decision a tough one. In high school, you don't have a whole lot of outside knowledge about what it's like to work in certain professions. For instance, I have a pretty good idea of what it's like to be a teacher. I spend a lot of time around them. I have no idea what it would be like to be a scientist or a web designer. I haven't really had any exposure to people in those professions.
It's really tough in a small town to know what's out there and what you have the opportunity to do. I had no clue who scientists were when I was in high school, and a lot of times you think that they're people like Albert Einstein with crazy hair and they sit in a room by themselves all day and try to develop ideas. It's quite a bit different than that, and it is all around the United States and all around the world. And I think it's really important that people in high school know that there's college students, 18, 19, 20 years old, working in labs on problems that are significant. I mean, from curing cancer to solving this energy crisis that we're going through.
Ultimately, I don't think anyone can make this decision for me. I'm pretty much on my own, but I'm thankful for those people in my life who have encouraged me to pursue careers that I have interest in, like my biology teacher. Mr. Anderson has always encouraged me, motivated me, opened doors for me, and constantly exposed me to the things I love. I think that everyone needs that one person that they can look up to, and for me, he is that person.
There's definitely been a couple of professors on campus.
You're never alone. You always have at least one professor that's in charge of your lab.
One person that's really stuck out to me is my research supervisor, Ross Carlson. We talk with one another about the research in the lab and advances that I've made, problems that I'm having, and it's really been great. So the research I do here involves using microorganisms, so little bacteria, to actually produce a plastic polymer. What I do is I will take this microorganism and then we'll use some of that to then start a reactor. So what we have to do is take samples out of our reactor, we'll run it into a machine that we have right here in the lab, and that will actually tell us what's in there. It'll say, okay, you have so much ethanol, you have so much of this plastic that we're looking for. Plastics are traditionally made from petroleum. Petroleum is what we use to fuel our cars. What we want to do is move away from using petroleum to produce plastics and use things like waste plant products.
I know there are lots of problems that my generation is going to have to face. I hear people on TV talking about things like pollution, the environment, and energy issues. I think that stuff is interesting. But right now, most of my time is spent worrying about trying to pass my next biology test. I think for most people in high school, the big world issues just seem far away.
We're trying to take these big processes like hydrogen fuel or alternative energy.
When you're in the lab, you're looking at a big issue like converting sugars to plastics.
You don't just take everything on at once. You just start with one thing.
It's also great to apply what you learn in class. So, you go to these science classes, you learn, oh, this is, how to purify a protein. Well, that's cool, but it's way cooler when you're doing it. There are times when you go, I just can't do this anymore. I don't want to come in and do this experiment. I can't handle it. But those are the days when you go in and, maybe you talk to a few people in the lab and they give you some advice and, point you in a new direction.
My friends have had a big impact on my decision about what to do after high school. I joined a group called Girls for a Change. We spend a lot of time planning our conference and doing community service. Through working with them, I've come to realize that simple things I do can have a big impact on other people's lives.
We could find the one algae that's going to be used to make biodiesel on a really large scale. We don't know. And so I think that's cool because, it could be my algae. It could be the one that I go and take care of every other day. I'm looking at one particular strain of algae that was isolated from Yellowstone. We make up some media, which is everything they like to eat, and then we put algae into that, and then we let them grow up and we monitor their growth every other day. We are looking for some algae that can grow well and produce a lot of lipids that can be transformed into biodiesel.
When I come home at night, I have biology homework, chores, an English journal entry to type up. I don't really know when I'm supposed to figure out what I want to do after high school. Even though I'm not sure when I'll end up making this decision, I know I have to make it soon.
When I was a junior in high school, I really had a desire to work on vehicles, and that's what I did day in and day out as I worked at Bob's Body Shop in Glendive. And I kind of thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, is work at a body shop. When I first got to Montana State, I worked at Bozeman Ford Collision Center, and I was still really interested in working on cars, and I really kind of thought that's what I still wanted to do. I was enrolled in college, I was taking classes, but it really wasn't until the end of my first semester that I had some professors come in and talk to me about work that they do in their lab. I didn't really even know professors had labs at the time because I wasn't really exposed to that while I was in high school. But I got in the lab, I started doing it, started lots of hands-on, lots of thinking all the time. And I've actually had the opportunity to travel all over the United States to present the research that I've conducted. And that's really strange for me still, as a person from a small town of 5,000 people, to travel all over the United States to tell them what I do at Montana State.
Working with Girls for a Change has made me realize that I want to find a career where I will be able to help people. And because of my biology teacher, I'm also thinking that I want to do something in science. I don't know what my future is going to look like. I'm both scared and excited. I only hope that with the advice of my teachers, my friends, and my family, I can find something that will be a perfect fit.